Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody, to our April edition of the MPF webinar series. And we're delighted to have with us today Rob Mattern, our guest speaker. How are you doing today, Rob?
I'm doing excellent, and thank you for having me.
Oh, and thank you for being with us. We're looking forward to today's conversation. And where are you this fine afternoon?
Just right outside Philadelphia.
Beautiful. And are you in the office? Are you at home today?
No, we are in the office.
You're one of those kind, huh?
Well, we'll talk about that.
We certainly will. And Uri Gutfreund, good to see you, my friend. How have you been?
John, I'm doing excellent. Good to see you. Glad to be here today.
Well, glad to have you as always. Uri is, if you've been to one of our webinars before, he's no unfamiliar face. He's been my partner in crime, co-host since the get-go. This is our 20th MPF webinar since COVID shut everything down. And we've evolved and adapted and listened in to what our participants are telling us. And so today's program will reflect that. Chock full of data, a very interactive conversation on a timely topic. And we'll have a nice set of handout materials that are very suitable for presenting to your executive committees, to your partners, to help, with a very important set of decisions most law firms will be making in the coming days, weeks, and months. A lot going on right now.
And John, as we were preparing for this, there's a lot of data today. I think we have to remind people when we start, the officials start, to get your pens and, get your cameras out. People like to do that at events, take pictures of the screen. It's going to go fast and furious, and take a lot of notes today. That's for sure.
That's a good point. We have a lot of data at the beginning, kind of in the setup, before we'll bring Rob in and get into our conversation. We have 5 polling questions in today's program, more than ever, but folks love this data, and this is such a timely topic and top of mind for so many managing partners and law firm leaders. I am looking at the clock. It is the top of the hour, so I'm going to start today's show. So, Uri, Rob, glad you're here, and welcome everybody to the 20th edition of the MPF webinar series. We call it the Law Firm of the Future because we should be looking forward. And today's topic, we're looking down at the sort of post-pandemic workplace model you want to create for your law firm, kind of looking beyond immediate return to office, but longer term, 3 years, 5 years. What kind of model are we building in terms of hybrid, virtual, bricks and mortar, everything in between? So we're going to talk about long-term, trying to get a sense of what's the right balance for your law firm. So with that, Uri, good to see you.
Good to see you, John. Glad to be here.
And we won't waste time with introductions because we do have a lot of data to share. Everybody should know me. We've been running these things for a while and do some managing partner programming. A few brief announcements. The webinar series, first Wednesday of the month. We kind of locked that in, 2 o'clock. We've been averaging 150 to 200 registrants. Today's count was about 195. We're coming in with some virtual conferences next month, May 6th. We're going to showcase the highlights of our MPF leadership survey. Many of you participated. We just shut it down, had record participation, 217 law firms weighing in on how they're evolving and adapting to the changing marketplace for legal services. So we'll present the highlights at this virtual conference. We're going to do a Women in Leadership conference too, partnering with Sharon Abrahams in June. Listservs, conference calls, we're doing all these things. Our next in-person meeting is going to be in the fall, October 7th. We can't wait. It'll be in Chicago. We're going to talk about succession planning. So stay tuned. Planning is well underway for that program, and we can't wait to get back in person. Today's program, we'll have our introductions. We'll formally introduce our guest speaker, Rob Mattern. Showcase some of our registrant survey results, 187 of you weighing in. We'll spend some time talking about finding the balance. We'll hear from Rob, we'll hear from Uri. I have a few thoughts as well. We've been working with mid-sized law firms through this and have some things we want to share, some guidance and whatnot. Live audience polling, 5 questions. Uri, people can type in their questions too.
Yep.
Briefly, how do we do that?
Yep, on your toolbar on the right where it says File Options View, there should be a tab, a pull down where it says Questions. So on the Questions tab, and in fact, I'll answer the first question from Michelle. Michelle, yes, this session will be recorded and John will be sending the link in the follow-up. So we already got our first question and answered. Put your questions in there. Don't promise that quick response all the time, but we will try. Look at that.
Yeah. And I was neglectful. We do record these sessions, and we will send you a very comprehensive set of handout materials, which will include all this survey data. And if you want the PowerPoint deck, just ask us, and we'll send that along to you as well. Our next MPF web seminar, I just said we do them every Wednesday, and now I'm going to take that back. We're not going to do one next month because we're doing that virtual conference. So we'll be back on June 2nd. With our complimentary 1-hour webinars. So stay tuned for those details. Rob Mattern, our guest speaker. Rob, so glad to have you with us. Rob is the founder, president of Mattern LLC. They are a market leader, if not the market leader, in working with law firms on the operations side of things, the consulting and the operations. 500 plus engagements, including 70 of the AmLaw 200. Well experienced working with law firms and how they function. A frequent speaker, frequent author, and he's a Philadelphia guy. And boy, did they whip the heck out of the Atlanta Braves in the season opener. Rob, you had to like that.
I enjoyed it.
So Rob, welcome. Glad you're with us.
I tell you, I'm glad to be here and part of this esteemed panel.
Well, at least 2 of the 3 are esteemed. How about that?
Okay.
And I won't say which of
Rob, you can come back. You can come back.
Okay, thank you.
Our first polling question, everybody get out your voting devices. And we ask this every webinar, and that's how many lawyers at your firm. This is for the benefit of our guest speaker as well. Get you some practice on voting early, voting often. So tell us your firm size, if you would, please. And Rob, we usually get a good cross section, big firms, little firms. And I'm looking at our votes come in. I'm going to count down to 4, 3, 2, 1. If you're not in, please vote. And we have a larger, it looks like, yeah, we're skewing toward larger firms with this topic.
Okay.
Quite a few firms, 100 or more. So Rob, with that gives you a sense of who's in the room. And as Uri mentioned, I'm gonna roll with some data. And Rob, if you want to comment, 3 first slides when y'all registered, then we'll talk a little bit about it as a poll. We asked everyone here, have you
John, close the poll.
Your firm's, oh, sorry, yeah,
John,
good
close
point.
the poll. Yep.
I got it. I always forget to do that.
Always.
Thank you for reminding. Well, most of the time I do. I do. So hit me in the side of the head if I forget. We asked if you figured out your near-term return to office policies, and here's what you told us. Yes, got it down. We're almost there. Number of you are just starting to think about it, but take that in. Have you determined your near-term RTO policies? Looking beyond the near term, a longer term, have you figured out where you want to go with your office's workplace model, moving toward a more remote kind of virtual deal? And 14% say we're coming back to the office, which is consistent with what we've been polling for a year now. 17% have decided we're moving toward a more virtual sort of hybrid model to accommodate work from home, remote working. A lot of you talking about it, and I suppose that's why you're here. But take that in. And then how do you personally feel about this remote working deal for your firm? And overwhelmingly, today's audience favors that model. Rob, let me ask you, Any surprises with this opening data?
Not in the least. I think firms, very few firms have a firm direction. I think a lot has to depend on their geographic region. But no, I think it's a very accurate representation.
Uri, anything jump out at you here?
Yeah, well, I'm struck, as Rob said, just piggybacking on what Rob said, 2/3 of people feel very passionate, it seems, somewhat in favor or strongly in favor of working remote, and yet 2/3 haven't figured out their long-term strategy yet. That has to catch up, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But there's a lot of people interested in it, not a lot of decisions yet made on it. So we have a lot of ground to cover.
And I think as the more the vaccine rolls out and the more settled this decision will be.
Okay.
Fair.
Good benchmarking data. You're not alone if you haven't yet figured it out, but now's the time. Last month, and if you haven't heard last month's webinar, it was a good one, and we did a point counterpoint, two managing partners with very different points of view on this issue. One, law firms are run in person, and we know the reasons. We know the reasons: the productivity, the collaboration, the mentoring, all these sorts of things that are working in a law firm. This from the managing partner of a firm in the heart of Manhattan, interestingly. And on the flip side, we heard from John Pinney. John runs a firm in Cleveland, Ohio, about 40 lawyers, I should say. They're a Meritas firm, and he's on the flip side of this. The traditional law office is dead, says John Pinney. And if you're not getting with the program, good luck. You're going to be, in the dust. One of the big reasons why we feel the need to come back to the office is productivity. And we're founding this unfounded. Rob, let me run through these stats and then invite your comment.
Okay.
This was at that point counterpoint session early March. This is a year's worth of data on partner productivity since COVID struck. And we're seeing a net increase in partner productivity overall. Associates, we had seen fairly even. We've been asking this question for a while, until last month's program, when we're seeing a dip in associate productivity, a pretty noticeable dip. And here's where the big dip is, and this has been throughout COVID since we've been working remotely. We're losing productivity among our support staff. Rob, what's going on here? What say you?
Well, I think there's a number of things going on. One, it's very easy to measure productivity with attorneys, with the billable hours. With support staff, it is a completely different ballgame. And I think a lot of this is based upon perception and not reality. And just one other point too, if you look at attorneys' jobs, they haven't changed that much. Okay, yeah, how they interact with clients and Zoom meetings. The support staff, their jobs are completely changed with what has happened over the last year.
Rob, we talked at our rehearsal yesterday about support staff and making sure that they've got the tools, the equipment, the place to work remotely. Who do you think should be owning that equipment when we have staff working at home? The internet access.
I think it's in the firm's
best. How do we make them more productive?
I think it's in the firm's best interest if you're going to have a work from home solution that you are given to your employees, then the firm should take ownership to that. And if there's in Inc. magazine, there was a poll about the 5 things that employees are looking for post-pandemic. It's a work from home stable platform. So,
okay. Live polling questions. We got rapid fire, 4 of them. So get your voting mechanisms ready. And the first polling question we're going to ask you is about today, where the lawyers at your firm on average work at the present time. How many days per week on average do the lawyers at your firm work in the office? And Uri, I'm going to turn to you and ask for a prediction. Where do you sense that most lawyers, we got a fairly national sample size here. You saw the firm sizes. Where do you think the lawyers are working for the most part?
I'm going with 3.
Rob?
I'll take the over on that, 3+.
And here are our results.
Wow.
Okay.
A lot of lawyers, it seems, working remotely. Now, our next question asks you to project. Hang on, Rob, am I doing this? Uri, am I doing this right? Ask you to project.
You got it now? Nope.
Where you see it happen in 12 months. Are you going to see him?
Yeah.
Are you going to see him drift back to the office?
Previous,
or do you
wrong
see
poll,
them
John. Wrong poll, John.
continuing to work remotely?
John,
that is the
wrong
wrong
poll.
poll. I'm sorry. Hang on, everybody. Let me get this right poll here. I don't know how that one slipped in. Here it is. A year from now, where do you see those lawyers working? Are they going to drift back or continue to want to work remotely? The question is, where do you see most of your, or where do, on average, most of your lawyers want to be working? How many days in the office a year from now? And Rob?
So about a third said they're working 1 day a week now, just to remind you. I'm helping you out there, Rob.
Right.
Rob, what do you think? Are they drifting back or do they continue to want to hold out?
No, I think it's going to stay the same.
There we go. So it would seem that this crowd anticipates that lawyers will start drifting back.
Yes.
3 days a week on average in the office. But a lot of folks wanting that flexibility to work remotely. Now let's turn the question to same set of questions, but we're going to ask you about support staff. And where are they working today at the present time? How many days per week on average do your support staff work in the office? And we're going to ask you where you see that a year from now. And then we'll talk. So, Rob, let me invite you to think to where do you see most support staff working on average?
I think you're going to see 3+ days per week for the support staff. They're in the office. The attorneys are at home right now.
Uri?
He stole my thunder. That's what I was going to say.
And you're both wrong. Isn't that interesting? And we didn't break down admin, your billing, your intake, your central administration people versus legal assistants and paralegals. But boy, a lot of support staff working remotely, but in 1 out of 4 firms, they're back in the office 5 days a week. So a wide array of where people are working.
And I think a lot has to do with the positions too, John, what they're actually doing. Some can work from home, some can't.
And we'll ask you the support staff a year from now. Are they drifting back or do you see them on average working remotely? This is really interesting data here. Gives you a sense of what firms around the country are looking at in terms of their needs for office space, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got about 70% of our voters in. 4, 3, 2, 1. Rob, is the support staff coming back or are we going to continue to see them working remotely a year from now?
I would say based upon the previous numbers, you're going to see more of them working in the office.
Uri?
Same, more coming back to the office. There
you go.
Okay. Yeah,
there you go.
70, 90%.
Interesting. We got this stat too, and Rob provided this one to us, and it's found in the 2021 State of the Legal Profession report.
John, clear
Thomson
the slide.
Reuters,
John,
Georgetown
clear
Law.
the results. I'm sorry, clear the result.
No, remind me, because I'm that's my thing. I forget to do that every time. Look at that. Look at that eye-popping number that's about to hit you here. 76% of lawyers prefer to work remotely. And that would suggest, Uri, these are some of our phrases we've been using.
Yeah.
The
A little corny, a little corny,
is out of the
John.
tube, the horse is out of the barn, and the genie's out of the bottle. So, okay. How do you figure it out for your firm, where you want to go with this? And Rob, why don't you kind of lead us off, kind of the big picture, what firm leaders should be thinking about, and then we'll come and talk about office issues, client issues, and your people issues, and how to factor all these ingredients into the right kind of balance for your firm.
Okay, well, as John, you said earlier, there's no right answer here. And it depends a lot upon the firm culture, what kind of approach they have to their employees, the whole trust factor, firm size and demographics. Okay, there's certain geographical regions easier to work in right now than others. But I think, instead of viewing this as a dreadful decision to be made, I think it's a tremendous opportunity to reduce real estate costs, reduce really support costs in a lot of areas, how you structure your operation, the ability to attract talent. There's a lot that this brings to the table that will only really increase your bottom line, okay, and really make it a more balanced work life for the people who do want that. So I think there's a lot of possibilities.
That reflects what John Pinney thought. This is an opportunity to pivot forward and really change your firm for the good. When I was doing my research, this was a quote that really jumped to me. And the fact that as a leader of your firm, the decisions you make over the next few months toward the end of the year are going to have long-term impacts on your firm, its culture, the dynamics among the partners and the associate support staff. And these decisions should not be made lightly, but very deliberately, thoughtfully, well-researched. And Rob, we talk about office considerations. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys do at Mattern, and then we'll look to your next slide where you articulate in a little more detail some of the things we presented just a moment ago.
Okay, we're unbiased consultants for law firms, back office operations, administrative services, information governance, and records, and how you manage those, whether they're in-house or they're outsourced. And a lot of firms keep some in-house, some firms outsource. There's no one right solution for that. But what we do is bring benchmarks, analysis, successful RFP processes if you do elect to outsource, and contracts that are win-win for the service provider and for the law firm. So that's what we do. That's our role in this whole area. And then I tell you, when we break it down, you asked me to list out like the different challenges and different opportunities. I think a lot has been said already about the physical aspect of the offices, lease terms, and so on like that, and the geographic locales where public transportation is key. That's going to be a hindrance to bringing people back. I tell you, the New York subway was tough enough to get on without a pandemic. Okay, now with the pandemic, it's a whole completely different world. What will the space be used for? Is it just for a showcase, or will it actually be functioning space? And the whole hoteling concept is going to gain, in my opinion, tremendous ground. You saw the numbers on how many days per week attorneys are going to be in the office, and it's not 5. Okay, so you're going to see a lot of temporary hoteling type of arrangements coming into play. Technology, a lot has already been said on that in regards to cybersecurity because of a remote workforce, et cetera. One point I do want to make here is on cost recovery. Okay, a lot of firms realize a lot of costs that are being recovered from clients. I think you're going to see a shift in that because remote, with the remote workforce, it's tougher to gather those costs and to bill them and recover that. So I think you're going to see a shift on cost recovery going forward. We do a lot of work in that area. Some firms do extremely well in that. I think you're going to see some big fundamental shifts. But the biggest opportunities, administrative services, how they're structured, and how they're handled remote, whether that's in-house or outsourced. And I think there's again, a tremendous opportunity to reduce expenses, restructure your operations to satisfy this new work from home workforce and taking care of the attorneys, and really drive your costs down and overall be more efficient and get out of the paper market. So I think it's a big opportunity.
So Rob, as we look at that data, it's real clear that people want to spend time both places. It seems like flexibility is the key here, and to accommodate folks who do want to come in, if it's 1 day a week, 5 days a week, and people who want to work remotely. And can we accommodate all these people on the spectrum? And who's paying for all this office space and all these home offices and the equipment? It can be expensive to maintain double offices for a lot of your people.
And that's why I think you're going to see some firm decisions on, a finite number of in-house offices and, reservation systems if you're going to be in the office to book a space. A lot of conference room type setups, flex spaces. But you're right. You don't want to carry 100% on both. But I think there's a midpoint, and again, that's where I think it's going to differ from firm to firm. Where what's that percentage? What's that balance between work from home and being on site? And I think, as you already said, the toothpaste is out of the tube. It's going to be a hybrid work environment for the vast majority of firms out there.
Rob, and there's no right or wrong. Yeah,
there's no right or
wrong. Rob, we got a lot of questions, and feel free to keep sending them, folks. We got a lot of questions at registration on a related topic to this, which is monitoring people's time when they're now out of your office, but in their home office. Are firms doing that? Is that what are some best practices around that, Rob? What do you recommend?
Okay, great question. And it really goes back to that original question that we asked, okay, about, in terms of productivity. And you see the support staff getting a big negative in that area. And again, I think a lot of that's perception, okay? Two, their jobs have changed, I already mentioned, but it's tough to measure. And, from a simplistic viewpoint, it's timesheets, work logs, and stuff like that. To, some larger firms are going with, Big Hand, which is just one type of the workflow tools that do measure productivity of the people doing the actual jobs. That could be keystrokes in word processing. It could be number of copy jobs, okay, to really take it down to the basic. So yeah, the firms are starting to measure that. Some firms have been doing that for a while. A lot of outsourced providers have been doing that for years because people are paying for it. They're approaching that differently. So yeah, you're going to see that, but even, the smallest firms, are you keeping accurate timesheets? Are there detail in there to be able to break these functions down, per employee, and how much of that is being done?
Boy, I would think you would get huge pushback from support staff who feel they're being secretly monitored or, micromanaged.
Well, I tell you, I don't know about secretly. Okay, I think timesheets and something like that is pretty upfront. Yeah, if they haven't, anyone, if you haven't been monitored in the past and now you're starting to be monitored, yeah, you got to do it tactfully. But I think it could be, I'm saying, if it's done well and it's part of the overall plan, and it's going to allow them really in the long term, possibly more freedom, I'm saying, to manage their jobs the way they want. It has to be sold. It's a change management type task, and it has to be sold.
Rob, and the main point you're saying is that that statistic, that perception may or may not be true. So the first basic is you have to track it,
To measure, yeah.
if you're not an attorney, to measure it. And then we can start the conversation of, is it underperforming or performing in a real with the data,
Exactly right. You can't start making really hard, fast decisions unless you have the data to make that. And I think a lot of that now is based upon perception. Oh, I caught so-and-so shopping on Amazon, and now that they're home, they're probably on Amazon the entire day. Okay, and you know,
Right.
and there's some truth to that. I'm not gonna dance around that. But to really make hard, fast decisions, start collecting data in a tactful way. And again, if anyone wants to reach out, we could give you some ideas on how we do it. Again, there's more advanced workflow models and job submission tools and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of that's overkill for the typical firm. But you got to be keeping track of the functions, and then, you know what, where's the best place for those functions to be performed? And when I say place, not only geographically, but really who? It doesn't have to be a legal secretary. Okay,
Do you sense, Rob, although it's important to measure it, do you sense that lawyers are learning to become a bit more self-sufficient and less reliant on legal assistant and paralegal support, and we'll see less of a need for that as we work through, the COVID situation and look to the longer term?
Absolutely. Okay. Again, not to stereotype, the younger attorneys are much more self-sufficient than the ones that have been in practice for a long time. And you're just going to keep on seeing that increase. And again, it's an opportunity to repurpose that position, okay, and possibly centralize some of those timesheet entries, travel, answering the phones and something like that, to a less expensive person to perform those tasks. So there's no doubt that things have changed. The pandemic has accelerated that change. No doubt about it.
I would agree. And we've heard, Uri, I'm sure you have as well, is that, younger lawyers certainly are a bit more tech savvy, self-sufficient, but even some of our seniors have surprised us at how they've adapted to the technology and the Zooms and the paperless and become a bit more self-reliant as well. It took a pandemic, but they've done it, and it shows up in the data.
Yeah. One COO in New York City of one of our clients, we had a Zoom coffee talk that we do, and he was on, and he mentioned that his biggest surprise was the amount of training the attorneys, both young and old, were requesting on word processing. You know what I'm saying? And because they are, I don't isolated is not the right word, but they're working from home. They want to start doing this stuff themselves, and that was his biggest shock from this whole pandemic situation.
I'll just add on that. I'll just add one more point on that, and I know we're moving on. Just one more point, which is when I look at those productivity, that data, one of the things that jumps out to me is it wasn't just that people were working from home in this whole pandemic. It was also a pandemic, and the fear, and really the fear of the firm collapsing, right? I mean, if we talked, and John and I did so many of these programs back in March. I think we were doing them weekly for a while, John, right?
Yeah,
I mean, in March and April and May, I mean, people were at the edge. They thought the economy was at the cliff. So what we saw, and we haven't brought it up, but it's really the background to these productivity gains, which is better behavior, better timekeeping, better billing, better collection. So the partners are more productive than they've ever been. And Rob, to tack on to what you were saying, I'm not sure that the staff has ramped up their game as much as the attorneys, and particularly the partners, have ramped up theirs. And they're learning how to do things, Rob, as you said, better without their staff. They learned how to do things they forgot how to do or relied on. And they're getting it done. They've got their time in. Hopefully those have not changed, but I think those productivity gains are because of positive changes. Will they bring that staff back to be as inefficient? Maybe not.
But Uri, we've heard it again and again. Our lawyers were well equipped to work remotely pre-pandemic. They were set. They had the laptops, they had the internet connections, the Wi-Fi, the whatever, and the office in the basement or the third bedroom. Support staff probably weren't as equipped to work remotely and maybe didn't have that extra space at home.
Absolutely.
Kids, the whole bit. So they had stresses generally that a lot of lawyers weren't dealing with as acutely.
If you work in the records department of a law firm, how do you do that from home?
Right.
Okay, especially if you're a paper-based firm, which a lot of firms still are. Okay, how do you work from home? You don't.
Right. Some functions are central, and you did a program the other day, Rob, where you were looking at Best out of San Diego and some things they've done to consolidate, centralize operations. And I think it was their Riverside office, not Los Angeles, San Diego. It was in Class B space, but they had that core group of central people. But a very, very deliberate strategy, saving them money, making them more efficient, all good things and opportunities, as you were saying earlier. Other firm considerations before we move on and talk about clients and people. Firm sizes, your leases, what kind of technology infrastructure you have. You should take an assessment of all these things. Bar rules and regs. I worked in Florida for many years. The Florida bar requires you to have a brick and mortar location, a physical address to maintain an office and market your services in Florida. I imagine other states have similar rules and regulations, but so, looking at the bar, insurance. Uri, you're in the insurance business. What should managing partners be considering in terms of security and risk management?
Yeah, one of these probably most of you are already aware, and that is cybersecurity. You have either had a problem this year at your firm likely, or one of your friendly firms in town have probably told you, or you've read about, because cyber has been a major problem for so many law firms this year. Law firms have for a long time been a target, been on the FBI list for a very long time. And now we have people working in more ad hoc environments. It could be sharing a computer, sharing office space. It could be kids on your office computer so they can Zoom for your fifth kid's class. So who knows? Right. But we had a lot of that. So cyber is one area. The other is more long-term, sort of the strategic planning, which is on your malpractice, your professional liability insurance, where a lot of the reasons why you don't get tons of claims is that you supervise matters very closely. And let's face it, a lot of that used to be in person, where you'd have a litigation meeting in the morning and saying, okay, you're on that case, you're on that case, you're on that motion, you're on that. We're missing that. Not all firms are coordinating that so well. And then, although we've alluded to it a few times, it has a measurement in the professional liability as well, which is training, right? How do your lawyers become better and better? Well, you teach them. The old days, how'd you teach them? You'd say, hey, Rob, come on to my office. I want to show you something. Or, John, I'm about to make a phone call to this client to explain this kind of emotion. Watch how we do it. And let's face it, we're less likely to get them on a conference call if I have to make a 3 call. First, I have to call the associate, then I have to call the client. So these are kind of the things that, John, people have to start thinking about long-term.
Mm-hmm. Client considerations. Uri, I asked you to talk to us a little bit about reaching out to your clients as to how you set up to work, to set your workplace going forward, and what should you be thinking about in terms of your clients and their reaction to whatever you decide to do.
Yeah, I think sort of in our theme that we've been advising, which is every firm is different and every situation is going to be different. And one of the considerations is who are your clients? Your customers, as we used to call them in the broader business way, and we call them clients in the legal industry, right? But these are your customers. And certain firms, for example, if you do personal injury practice, they're going to be coming to your office, right? I mean, there's no other place to meet. You're not going to be going to different people's homes. So you might need an office, and you need to maintain that. That has to be going into your consideration.
Yeah, they want to see those signs of success, don't they? Those
they want to see the
unsophisticated consumers of legal services want to walk in that big bank lobby.
Yes.
See the stability and success in front of them. So I agree.
And it might be on the high end too, John, right? Board meetings. A lot of firms host client board meetings. So if you're hosting your client's board meetings, guess what? You need a boardroom. You need a nice boardroom with all the latest tech.
Yeah, Penny,
And
Penny talked about, didn't they, as they
yep.
reconfigured their offices in Cleveland. He's saying, our leases is up in 3 years. We're lucky. Hurley said, I just signed a 10-year lease right before COVID. I'm not so lucky. So they're retrofitting their office space, group space, and they open it up to the community. So a lot of it's for meetings, not to office lawyers, but to accommodate clients. The lawyers are working remotely for the most part.
And conversely, if you're a litigation firm, particularly if you do insurance defense, right? Client wants to know you're in court, wants to know you're available. They don't care where you are.
Not at all.
I wouldn't think you'd need it, but different clients, different client mix. And it's not one size fits all even for your firm, right? You might need a certain footprint before COVID. And now if you're not having as many people in the office, well, it could be half the size, or as you said, John, like John Penny, just a different mix. Business partners, we think that, how important is your banking relationship for your banks to be close by? Probably not. But if you have to be running to the bank all the time, maybe it is important to have that closure. Your healthcare providers, I have an insurance perspective on this, which is, you did all your benefit enrollment meetings. Historically, those were in person. Well, you need to consider that when you pick your space and you pick your strategy, which is okay. That's one of the benefits we're going to give our employees, but not in the old way we used to. So there has to be some type of consideration to analyze what you need and then pivot from that.
This whole wellness thing too it was hot pre-COVID, and now
Yes.
that lawyers are dealing with change and uncertainty and isolation, there may be some stress in there. So there's importance on wellness. And, a lot of firms set up the gyms. And I remember back in the day, we'd have the flu shot people come in.
Right.
That was good. That was great and convenient. Do you think, Uri, and I'll ask you the same question, Rob, that a firm should ask its clients, or should we just assume we know what they want in terms of our conference rooms and office layout and all that good stuff? Should we survey them? Should we sit down and talk to our top 10 clients as we're considering our future workplace model? What advice would you add?
I'm going to let Uri go first because I don't want him to have to mimic my answer. So go ahead.
Great minds think alike.
I think there's no downside to asking them. I do think, however, you should have a handle on that. I mean, this shouldn't be too hard for you to think through. If your clients had been spending a lot of time in your office, well, then it's going to be important to them. If not, it probably isn't. Still can't hurt to have that discussion. No customer ever said, I can't believe you reached out to me to ask my opinion, right? I don't think there's any downside, but I do think it's something that you really should have a good sense of based on your history.
Rob?
I agree 1,000%. Anytime you can ask a client input about how you're servicing them or will be servicing them, it's a win-win type situation for, I would say, 99% of the clients out there. If you have a plan, I think it's a no-brainer.
I agree with you. I think reach out to your clients and involve them in these decisions, and engage your clients. They're perhaps your people and your clients are your two most important assets as a law firm. Client portals, a lot of firms go in there, setting up virtual consultations, portals. Rob, what's your experience with client portals? Is it something you think most firms should put in place, or?
I think it depends upon your practice, okay, and the type of clients you're dealing with. Again, I think if you're more a personal injury and so on like that, where they're going to access that stuff, the larger firms, I don't see that much of it. I'm not really exposed to that much of it, but I think it depends upon your practice and your type of clients you're serving.
Uri, what's your take on client portals at this kind of point?
Yeah, it's one of those efficiencies. It's one of those efficiencies, John, that we heard people have implemented during the pandemic. It's another way to, clients aren't bringing by files anymore. You're not sending files, hopefully, to clients anymore. They're paying their bills online. They want to see their bills. It's really, it's about working better with your clients. It's serving them better. And it's also about getting paid quicker. So I think it's a win-win.
You know, I think if I can bank online, remember how reluctant we all were in the early days? Online banking was scary. And no, boy, have we come a long way. My doctor now, you know, post-pandemic, it's online consults. They've set up the client portal. I love it. It's so convenient and accessible, and everything's right there. It's password protected. Why can't law firms do that? I think we're going to see more and more client portals. Every firm I know who's set one up say the clients love it. The clients love it. My pushback is from some of the senior partners who think it's a little too ahead of the time. But once the clients start asking for it, they come along. Bob Young shared that story, or you may recall, where they set up a portal for his firm in Kentucky, and he just went and did it. He made an executive decision and set up a client portal, and didn't bother asking for permission. The clients loved it, and now the senior lawyers have to learn how to use it. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, you know, the last webinar we did, both of our faculty referenced a employee survey they did, an online survey among their people in terms of their return to office in the near term and longer term kind of remote workplace considerations. And I can't tell you how many people reached out and said, hey, John, can you get hold of those questionnaires? Can you get hold of those questionnaires? I'd love to see it. That prompted me to go to work and build a questionnaire that you may present to your partners, your associates, your support staff, asking them where they want to be, how frequently they want to be there, what they need to be more productive, more connected. Get your clients' input to this. Now, if you're only selling chocolate and you know at the get-go you're only selling chocolate, you may not want to ask what other flavors everybody wants. But most of us haven't figured out yet what we're selling. And we saw in the data earlier, most of us are trying to figure it out. I think it's so important to reach out to your people, your most important asset. Talk to your partners as to what their preferences are, the owners of the place, your associates. Boy, look at all the studies of how millennials want to practice law going forward.
Yep.
We did a program with a couple of women law firm managing partners. The key word for them was flexibility. If you want to attract and retain diversity to your law firm, you better learn to be flexible and accommodate remote working. Young people want to work this way, whether you like it or not. And your support staff. And do you treat them differently than you do the lawyers? Support staff will come in. Lawyers, you have flexibility. I mean, there's already
John.
a lot of second. Yes, Uri.
John, I have to interrupt you and give you the tough question. No, I have to ask you the tough question. We must have gotten this question five ways.
Yes.
But this is an important one. This is why you get paid the big bucks, John. Okay. The big question to you is, question is,
it better be easy, Gutfreund.
It's twofold. It's twofold, John. It's how do I assess who I let on my people? Because this is your topic. How do I assess that? And then when I make a decision, this is where it gets tough. Then when I make a decision, how do I convince and balance my partners who desire me to do other things? This is from the managing partner. Go, okay. John.
All fair. And I think you gauge the temperature of the room. You talk to folks through the online surveys, through one-on-one conversations, communication. You need to get a sense of your firm and where your folks want to work. I think the best way to do that is to ask. Now, this is a good metrics. I'll come back to it. But I think no matter where you set the temperature, and notice we did Celsius to accommodate our friends in Canada and elsewhere outside the United States. No matter what you decide to do as a firm leader, you just can't make everybody happy. No matter where you set that temperature, it's going to be too hot. It's going to be too cold. It's going to be too hot, too cold, same person in the same day. You cannot make everybody happy all of the time. But I think as the CEO, You weigh into all these constituencies, your people, your clients, your other important audiences, your banker, your landlord, and take it all in. I love this metrics that our friends at McKinsey present. It's a little busy. It'll be in your handouts, but it looks at the kind of 6 different hybrid continuums from almost entirely off premises down here to almost entirely on premises, and kind of sets up a little metric that may help you. Question: do you treat staff differently than lawyers? Do you have different policies among offices? You got a New York office and you got a Charlotte office. Do they have different policies? No right or wrong. I think it's a matter of taking the temperature, soliciting feedback, making what you believe to be the best decision in the long-term interests of your law firm. That's what I would say, Uri Gutfreund. And I'd be curious, Rob, if you might advise something different.
No, not in the least. I think you hit the nail on the head on that one. I think the thing that you have to keep in mind throughout this entire process is, and this is, what my father used to say, that the only person that likes change is a wet baby, and there's going to be change. And some are like,
just thinking
some are
the
not.
graphic on that. I wish I had a graphic.
Yeah, don't you have a one of those graphics that you're going to pop up?
I don't have a graphic of the wet baby.
And this is change. And again, it's almost like, why wouldn't you embrace this? Okay, because society has changed, the world has changed, and it's going to change the way you run your law firm. And you could either go kicking or screaming, or you could be on the forefront. And is every decision going to be right? Probably not. But you got to start making decisions that are in the best interest of your firm, with all the constituents involved.
Uri, what do you think? You know how I feel. We've been working together for a while now, and I'm pretty expressive with my opinions. What do you think is the best way for a managing partner to?
I think that although there's been, and this is my next question actually, which is, I think there's a lot of sort of measuring productivity, measuring success, decision making in the past, not quite by the seat of the pants, but by the seat of the pants historically. Look, law firms were never known as great, right? I mean, in fact, John, you remember at our last in-person conference in May, do you remember what the greatest takeaway from that event was? It was survey your employees, okay? It was survey your employees. So corporate America did that 20 years ago. Law firms got it last May. So
the old client status, the employee satisfaction survey. Yes.
My point
Everybody
is,
went and did employee satisfaction surveys.
We weren't so great at measuring productivity. We weren't so great at making these kinds of decisions in the past, and so it's no surprise that it's hard to make it in the future. We don't have the data. It is change, but I think a system based on productivity is the way to go. A system to make these kind of decisions based on each job, and even each partner has a different role at the firm. Some of those roles need to be done in the firm. Training, mentoring, integrating lateral. I mean, those are the kinds of things that need to be done in the office. What doesn't need to be done in the office? I think rainmaking. I mean, that's maybe the most obvious one. If you have someone, we have clients who are rainmaking through this and they're not in the office. Are we going to make them come back to the office? I don't think so. I don't think that would be a wise move. So sort of these customized, John, as you were saying, customized solutions, but that's going to require harder work because we can't just say one size fits all. We can't say, okay, on May 15th, we're back in the office.
Right.
Because not everybody has to come back to the office, or should they?
And the old, lawyers, well, what's everybody else doing? What are other firms doing? And, that's the first question they ask when you propose something new to them. What's everybody else doing? And I frequently say, wrong question. What's right for you? At this point in time, and given your firm's vision for the future, what's right for your firm? Screw what everybody else is doing. Another point, Rob, that I thought of is, and I see it a lot, smaller mid-sized law firms. We're trying to run a collection of sole practitioners, share an office space, and keeping everybody happy. And the rules, the structure is kind of loose, and it really is an office sharing arrangement. we're not really a firm. I think a firm thinks and acts institutionally. It's got vision, it's got leadership, it's got fellowship and leadership. That's your role here, is to assess the troops, assess the situation, and make what you think is the best, well-informed, long-term decision for your law firm. And my last bullet point on this slide, I said, be prepared to lose some talent. I tried to give it a positive spin. Rob, when we talked yesterday, you said, you know what? If you do this right, it's an opportunity to attract talent,
Absolutely.
retain talent. So don't be afraid.
Yeah, you're no longer constrained by geographic position in attracting talent. If you're a New York-based firm, you can hire a chief marketing officer in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Okay, and I think it's just going to open up and continue to open up a lot of opportunities and the ability for firms to get better talent and possibly at a lower cost. And I think, again, it's a, there's no other industry that I'm aware of that surveys itself more, asks what the other guy is doing, comparing themselves to their peers, how they rank on all the different metrics. And I think when they start taking a look around in these firms, when the things settle, it's going to be a hybrid workplace. And I think it's almost like, why wouldn't you go that way? You're going to be more profitable. You're going to get better talent. You're going to have a better, happier workforce. Why wouldn't you go that way?
Yet we have found consistently about 12 to 15% want to return to normal, get back to the office. We've been seeing that consistently. There is this 1 in 8 that feels, no, we got to come back. We got to share space. We can't pull this off remotely. How do we convince those 1 in 8? We talked about this in our dress rehearsal. That senior partner, it doesn't have to be a senior partner, firm leader who's given us the pushback, not comfortable. How do we overcome that objection? Should we even bother trying?
You're asking me, John, or you're?
I'm asking you, Rob.
Okay.
And we'll come to Uri. We'll ask what he thinks too. He's not shy.
Okay. I think it's going to be difficult to convince them now. I think over time that they will come around, okay? And some probably won't. What percentage, 2%, 3%, I don't know. But what we find is law firms make decisions and act when it impacts the bottom line and or there's a crisis. Okay, one of those two things. And I think over time, again, if this is done right, it's going to be beneficial to their bottom line, efficiency of their entire workforce, and they'll come around. And again, with the nod to the 2 to 3% that are the old guard that are not going to go in that direction, regardless of the data, regardless of what their peers are doing. And you know what? You may have to wait till they retire.
And Rob, we still run into, I do anyway, and I work with, firms in smaller towns and, mid-sized firms, smaller towns, and they can't wait to come back. They can't wait to come back. Well, that's the right answer for that firm. But you've talked to your people. You've talked to your clients. You're in a suburban location with easy access and parking. You've got a culture where people really want to be together, but you've tuned into your people and how they want to work. I've heard that from time to time, that we can't wait to get back to the office. Uri, what say you about overcoming the objection from folks who just can't see this remote thing working?
Well, I think for some firms, like you said, John, it won't work. I think, Rob, I'll take your point a little further even, which is firms will act more on the negative than the positive, meaning they won't hire someone remotely to improve their bottom line so fast because of the reasons you mentioned. But they will start hiring people remotely when they lose their superstar to a firm in the next state over who hired them. And then it's a defensive because it's an opportunity, But you have to know, if you think you had your talent locked up because you were the biggest firm in the city, well, guess what? The next city over, it's a no-brainer to hire from you.
Great
Maybe
point.
the next state. So I think that's going to move the needle, Rob. They're going to lose a
Great point.
rainmaker. John, when they lose a rainmaker, everything changes. Everything's
Yep.
on the table. That's what I say.
Or they lose a big client or two, or
a big client,
it takes a jolt before
Yep.
they'll act. I definitely have seen plenty of those situations. As usual, our time has flown by. We have, just scratched the surface. We're going to continue this conversation and help firms through this. Here's some great resources. The ALA has a great COVID-19 resource center. The National Association of Law Firm Placements is always surveying. They've got some great stuff about what attracts lawyers. We were talking just now about poaching talent and what young folks are looking for, what rainmakers are looking for. SHRM, OSHA. I mentioned this survey. So we'll send the handouts, the recording tomorrow to everybody. But if you want a hold of that survey, I'm going to make you come to me. I'll put a link in there, click here, and we'll send it on to you. But that seems to be a hot commodity there that we'll share with everybody.
And John, the MPF website has this recording. It will have this recording and past recordings. It's worth watching that last one with John Pinney. That was really, and Michael, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was a good
Really
one.
excellent.
And what was funny is that you would expect the opposite opinion from the New York guy, the Manhattan guy, and the guy out in Ohio, but they were counterintuitive.
But all those are on the website, John, and I know you'll include
They
that
are the full archive. Everything's there, the handouts, the recordings. And so please avail yourself to those resources. Uri, good to see you. Uri's over in Israel still, coming back this summer, I hear. So we'll look forward to seeing you in person soon, Mr. Gutfreund. Rob Mattern, thank you so much for joining our conversation. This isn't the last time you'll be joining us. And there's my contact information. Each of us is more than happy to carry forth the conversation. So reach out to us, email, telephone, LinkedIn, however you want to do that. And we will be happy to respond to you and talk more about a very timely topic and something that many firm leaders are working through at the present time. Gentlemen, anything for the good of the order? Rob?
I tell you, thank you very much for having me. I thought it was an excellent conversation, and really, it couldn't be more timely. But very nice job, John and Uri. It's a pleasure.
Rob, and thank you. You were our expert, and I think brought some valuable perspective. You've been working with law firms for a long time, and obviously know what you're doing. Uri, anything you want to say before we call it a day?
Final comment is, as we started in the beginning, there was a lot of data on today. I know a lot of you are going to get that data when John sends it out and share that at your next board meetings. John and I and Rob would be happy to answer any questions, but you use this as your data start, and there's a wealth of information on John's website to help add to all this data. So great job today, John.
Well, and if you really are a data junkie, you'll good segue, good friend. Come to our virtual conference, May 6th. We just closed this leadership survey, 50-some questions, 217 law firms, mostly mid-size from all over the country, all over the world for that matter. Talk about data, about how firms are evolving, adapting. So we'll be showcasing that stuff for the first time on May 6th. So if you're a data junkie, make sure you come to that event. Details to follow. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Take care.
And to our audience, thank you so much. Good to have you with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye, John. Bye, Rob.